Peace, family. This video right here is about blood types. Now, you got 8 different blood types, right? You have O negative, O positive, A negative, A positive, B negative, B positive. Then you got AB negative and AB positive. So you got 4 different blood type variations on the negative side. You got 4 different blood type variations on the positive side, which gives you a total of 8. Now, with that being said, let's deal with the origin of blood types. First of all, blood types, only one is natural and original. That's the O negative blood type. Now, I'm going to break down the origins of the blood types before I tell you the effects and the types of people that can have these blood types. Now, the O negative blood type comes from the African black woman, which you would call the mitochondrial Eve gene. Now, why is this important? Mitochondrial DNA is DNA that exists outside the nucleus of a cell. Once DNA becomes coiled up in the nucleus of a cell, it's called a chromosome. So, let's break down. Let's get that understood first. Now, why is this important? Because all non-Africans don't have the mitochondrial Eve gene DNA. Listen, I'm going to say it. I say it all the goddamn time. I'm going to say it again. If you are non-African, you are not 100% human being. You are only 93% human being and 7% Neanderthal. Now, why is this important? Because only human beings, aka Africans, have the mitochondrial Eve gene. All non-Africans get their mitochondrial DNA from Neanderthals, aka primates, aka monkeys. So we do not have the same cellular, biological, or genealogical makeup or physiological composition as any other organisms on the planet. Now, with that being said, this breaks down the origins of the blood types, which it is confirmed by science that Neanderthals introduced infected genes into our genetic structure as Africans. Go look it up. So with that being said, the A blood type and the B blood types are antigens. Go look up what an antigen is. And these antigens produce antibodies that literally cause a blood infection within the circulatory system of African people. So when they say you're Rh positive, Rh is literally a medical term that is used to denote rhesus monkey, which is an actual monkey. Go look it up. So being Rh positive is like being HIV positive. It means you have it. So now, why is this important? Rh positive, rhesus monkey blood, comes from Caucasians and all non-Africans. So the A antigen comes from dogs and the B antigen comes from monkeys. Now remember, African people, we do not have the same genealogical structure as Caucasians or Asians or any non-African. So when you go look up the genealogical components that compose a Caucasian, you'll see that they share 98% of their DNA with chimp and another percentage of their DNA with wolf. So this is where you get the A antigen and the B antigens from. And these antigens produce antibodies that literally break down the protein within the blood of African people when you have sex with them. This is a process done that's called red blood cell hemolysis, which I broke down what red blood cell hemolysis is in detail in my interrelational dating part 2 video. So with that being said, I'm not doing it now. Now getting back onto the subject, when African people were not sexually reproducing with non-African people, we were all O negative. We were all from the mitochondrial Eve gene. Okay? This is why they say in the Bible, everybody's a descendant of Eve. They're talking about the gene, the African woman. Now, when you look up the time marker in regards to when A and B antigens manifest on the planet Earth, you'll see they manifested approximately 6,000 years ago. Now, why is this important? This is the same motherfucking time Europeans and every other race came to manifest themselves physiologically on this planet. So the A and B blood types were introduced to the African by non-Africans. And these are blood infections which cause you to suffer from red hemolytic disease during pregnancy. So I also break down hemolytic disease in my interracial dating video part 2. Go watch it. But we stand on the blood types here. This is why only certain blood types can give to certain blood type. This is why O negative can only take from an O negative, but yet O negative can give to everybody because of genetic engineering, which I break down step by step in another presentation, a lecture I gave called Genetic Reincarnation, which will be available on my site this week. So I'm giving y'all the videos and the lectures to go look at so that y'all can get the details of the information that's not being presented in this particular video. Now, with that being said, continuing on, blood types are denotions of origin. Now, when you're African today and you go to the doctor and they say you got an O in the blood type and a B blood or a B blood type, this doesn't mean you're Caucasian. Because after this, I'm doing matter of fact, I'm gonna get it in now. Fuck it. You cannot have Caucasian in your family tree. Okay? You can't. There's no way. Now, when you look it up on all this Ancestry.com and they be like, your great-grandfather is white. No. Mo, you cannot. Listen. The European mitochondrial DNA comes from animal DNA. That DNA can never override the original genetic coding of the mitochondrial Eve gene. It can affect it, though. It can cause infections. Okay? And this is where you see people coming out with the Rh-positive monkey blood. That just means your blood is infected. It does not mean you're Caucasian. Two Caucasians can never give birth to an African, but an African can never give birth to a Caucasian, as I already broke down. Why? Because they're Neanderthal. We are not Neanderthal. We don't give them those genes. They don't give us those genes. Evolution theory is a goddamn lie. So now why is this important? When people keep saying, I got white in my family. No, you don't. You have somebody who integrated into your family and affected your bloodline. And then when we want to go deeper into the bloodline, you get your DNA and your blood passed down from your mother. So if your mother, as I broke down in my interrelational dating part 2 video, again, go watch it. If your mother is black, you're African blood. You are African blood. If your mother is white, then you are more so influenced by European bloodline, which means that you have been, for the most part, cut off from your original bloodline. So now when we see a lot of us, that's A and B blood type and this, that, and the third, that's because somewhere in history, one of our coon-ass grandfathers went and had sex with a white woman, and they cut us off from our original bloodline, and now we have become infected on the means of on the level of the circulatory system, and become not descendants, but let's say diagnosed with the blood infection. So now we've been to a certain extent cut off from certain genetic memories and cellular memories of our ancestors, because at some point in time, our grandmother was no longer black. So now I broke down the science to this in my interrelational dating video part 2. Go watch it. I'm not going into it again. Now, that being said, let me give you an example. It's a fact that your DNA stores all phenomena that you experience, as well as spiritual and mental, psychological understandings that you experience in your DNA, and you pass that down to your grandchild. So if I'm a black woman and I pass that down to my daughter, and then my daughter has some kids and she passed that down to her civilization, and that civilization, all the daughters of that civilization have another African civilization, and they pass that down. All of these civilizations now have the previous memories, cellular memories of their predecessor civilization, of their grandparents' civilization. Now, one of these niggas in this civilization go straight the fuck off and go fuck with a non-African. Now, their offspring has a tad bit of his genetic memory, which he retained from his civilization, but the majority of the cellular and genetic memory information that the child retains is coming from the mother. So now, this mulatto child, or Chinese or non-African, because you might have a baby with a Chinese person or whatever Neanderthal you didn't had a child with. This child has probably 20 to 30% African cellular memory, and 70% non-African. So now this 70% also has the intel with the blood, because your memory is stored in your blood. Your DNA is in your blood. Just like on a crime scene, you bleed, they get in your DNA. So that being said, now this is where the A and B antigens come in, because you get your bloodline passed down from your mother. So if he was O negative and everybody was O negative, he just strayed his ass off and went to the Caucasus Mountains and had a baby by somebody that's A or B positive or negative, then now that child may come out mulatto. That child may come out with a tad bit African cellular memory. It may have some connection to its original family to a certain extent, but it now carries the bloodline of the oppressor, because you get your bloodline from your mother. So if you have a child by a non-African, that child will carry the bloodline of that non-African if the non-African is anything other than O negative. Now you might say, Pharaoh, well, how is this some white people that's O negative, or this, that, and the third that's O negative? Because all non-Africans were genetically engineered. This is a motherfucking fact, whether you believe it or not. So that being said, of course some of them are going to contain the original blood, because they not only they've been genetically engineered by extraterrestrials, which carry an O negative bloodline, aka Illuminati 13 world bloodline families, but they did the same shit we did. Some of them white men come over here, our babies with our black women in the past, and they've come out mulattoes that are O negative, and the mulattoes went back to white people and had babies who now carry the O negative bloodline. So we've been swapping bloodlines, okay? We've been swapping bloodlines. There's only one royal bloodline, and that's us, and that has been usurped and hijacked by the European to which today you call the Illuminati who carry the royal bloodline, but we're the African people were the original bloodline. So they have usurped us genetically and biologically from our planet and our land. This is why when you go to any civilization in the world, you can find African people was there first, but we're not there now. So why can I go to Japan and find all African people was in Japan, and now magically 6,000 years ago, all non-African people is in Japan? Why can I go to Europe and find that, goddammit, all African people was in Europe at one point in time, but now it's all European people? Because of, whatchamacallit, genetic supplanting, which I break down also in my genetic reincarnation lecture. So with that being said, family, y'all gotta understand this. This is about bloodline, okay? White supremacy is about genetic information encrypted within the cells of the organism, of each organism, aka in this particular instance, the organism will be an African person, and it's about bloodline. Your bloodline is what makes you divine. That O negative bloodline is a part of the cosmos. Now, this does not mean when you watch this video, family, to feel, oh, I'm not O negative. I'm probably not O negative. I don't know my blood type. This doesn't mean that you're not divine. This just means that if you're African, I'm only speaking to African people. If you're African, male or female, and you don't have a O negative blood type, or you might be O positive or A positive, whatever your blood type is, if it's anything other than O negative, it just means that somewhere in your past, your ancestors was either raped or willingly sexually reproduced with a non-African, and today you carry the baggage of that. Let's say you carry the blood infection. That's all it is. A and B blood type is just antigens. So that means in your blood you have A and B antigens. The positive is the rhesus monkey blood. So if any of these are your blood types, it could be mine, include mine. It just means we carry the blood infection that was forced upon us or either willingly brought upon us by the ignorance or the failure to preserve ourselves genetically by our ancestors. This does not mean you're not divine, because that melanin and that pineal gland is what connects you to the cosmos, and it's what it's the signature, baby. It's that neuromelanin is the signature. So it's like, if you got a goddamn car and you get a scratch on the car, that don't mean that this motherfucker not still gonna go 200 miles per hour when we get on this highway to race. It don't mean you're gonna beat me in a race because you scratched my paint. It just means you didn't put an error in my original manifestation. So that being said, this is where the complications and pregnancies with certain blood types come in and all of that, because African people are the original people, and all non-Africans are literally not human beings. So you are not supposed to be sexually reproducing with somebody outside of your species, aka your race. So racism actually does play an effect, but not for what y'all think. It's a genetic thing. It's not a history thing. White people know that we created everything. That's not the argument. The argument is genetic. This is about genetic survival and the passing down of the O negative bloodline, because that bloodline contains the most information. Remember, information is passed down through genes and through blood. The O negative blood type contains the most information. So whoever owns that blood type has access to millions and millions of years of human existence as we know it. And Europeans are locked out of that information because they got calcified pineal glands, and they don't have the machinery within the epidermis layer of their skin or the neuromelanin nerve tract in their brain to be able to spiritually manifest the information that's encoded within them. So they are harvesting African people's organs to do this. I'll give you an example. There are stories of people when they go to the hospital and they get transplant surgery done, and people get new eyes and start seeing the shit of the eye donor. They get hearts and livers and start experiencing memories of the liver donor. This is because your memory is stored in your blood. So organ harvesting of African people and these Masonic lodges, they eating our pineal gland, is because they're trying to access our divine past that they use white supremacy to brainwash us away from and keep us away from. So understand the importance of the blood type. And if you, like I said, it's not our fault where we are now, but it is our fault in regards to where we gonna go. So if you watch this video and you go get your blood type done, you find out you're O negative, as long as you're African, you're good. You're right. You're right. But just, you need to know the origins of why you're no longer O negative and where these blood types actually come from that they don't teach you, because they don't teach you this shit in school. They're not going to never teach you this, because they will have to explain to you now where they come from, which you're not willing to do. And they will have to explain to you now that they're not really humans and that we're the true humans. And they will have to thirdly explain that evolution theory is complete bullshit and that they need to throw it in the garbage. So with that being said, family, this is the origins of blood types. Understand not just who you are, but why you are and who you are. And with that being said, I love y'all. Peace.